Let's get your thoughts on how the fixed income market has played this week. We continue to see an extension of the rally we've seen in the bond market, and of course there's a lot of liquidity in the system.
Yes, it's a continuation of how we ended last year, bullish all the way. But what we've seen is a slight change in appetite, especially for the bond, which we're very glad about. On the short end of the bond curve, we've seen a lot of demand, especially on the 2017 bonds, 9 Series 2, we refer to them as. Right now, if you look at the yield curve of Nigerian bonds from 3 to 20 years, you see the curve is very normal. That is having lower yields on the bonds with lower maturities, and then for the 20 years, 2030 bond, the yield is at around 12%. We have 10.9% yield on the 2017, like I spoke on earlier. For a long time, all through last year, we had an inverse curve such that when 2030 bond was at 12, we had other shorter maturities bond at about 13 and even more than that. So we've seen that major reversal and change in appetite, especially on bonds that are listed on the JP Morgan's platform. And then, Barclays is talking about listing Nigerian bonds by March. Of course, they have their indicators and things they are watching for the first quarter to see how things go, basically. But for the T-bills end of the market, liquidity is driving that end. And it's so strange that we have lower yields on the long end of the T-bills market. The one-year bills are very attractive. So these are not short-term funds. These are people wanting to lock down for a long period of time. And those who bought T-bills for about 13, 14% are selling down at the short end, not waiting for it to mature. Do you get? So we're having the inverse curve, yield curve on the T-bills market this time around. So basically, we've seen change in appetite and direction of the yield curves, but it's still very, very, very active and bullish. There's a lot of money in the system. The government issued federal allocations, bills matured, so the system is very liquid, up to the tune of over 400 billion. We expect government to continue to mop up with OMO because they are keeping a tight, very close eye on inflation, even though it dropped.
Yeah. Okay, now, of course, many people are saying inflation would be single digits. Do you think we would see single-digit bond yields this year? Do you think that's taking a little too far? Because many people will say that we're getting much closer to that now.
Single digit on bonds? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, single digits on bond. Do you think that's a possibility? I mean, maybe...
I think it's a possibility with the 2017 9 Series 2 already at 10.9, because by February, I think what Barclays will be looking at is how the government handles all the maturities it has to pay back for bonds in February. If that goes very well, February 19th gets paid out easily. By March, if government bonds gets listed on Barclays, I mean, with JP Morgan already there, I'm going to see a lot of interest from the Far East. We're not seeing much of that yet. It's a lot from Europe, South Africa, and Americas. If we see the Far Easterners bring a lot of cash, I mean, seeing stability and ability to pay back, wow, we will see single digit, basically. And the Nigerian country as it is, source of revenue, that's crude oil, the pricing and the volume we're selling is not on the decline at all. In fact, there's no major threat, as it were. The challenges we have with security in the country are more residual in the northern part of the country. And as we see, offshore production has not been much affected, basically. It's more on the positive side. I see more money coming in and demand growing, not even staying steady at where they are right now.
All right, so Nigerian bonds clearly in high demand across the world these days. Let's move on to the FX market. We've seen the Naira weaken slightly this week. Can you just talk us through the factors that you're seeing there? I said yesterday was at 157 to the US dollar. Was it weaker today as well?
Yes, what we've seen at the end of the market trading today is 157.10. It will gradually maybe climb up until government decides to go in heavy on the supply with WDAS. What we saw was that they offered 50 and sold maybe 11 at the first auction of the year. They've sold just less than 120 million at the second auction of the year. What they're doing is to manage their reserve also, but demand on the first day of WDAS wasn't very high. So I expect that to climb as well, just as companies begin to pick up production and import their resources and all that. So the picture right now is not a definite one. It's a growing demand, and the government is going to try to match it up, basically, just like the present administration with the CBN has tried to defend the Naira.
Okay,
the reserves have been looking good.
What's your call for the Naira this year? Some people say 156. We've seen that late last year. Do you think we will go to 155, or do you think we're likely to stay where we are?
personally, I see us around where we are, except if they want to embark on the massive depletion of the Federal Reserve. Demands will come. We know that when they start to implement the budget, when everything gets passed and finalized, a lot has to be done with infrastructure. There's a lot of call on trying to help the farmers because of the flood. Fine, we'll be able to feed ourselves and subsidize imports of rice and fertilizer with distribution and helping them with gadgets, phones and all that. More money will be put into infrastructure, that's traveling and movement of these food crops all around, and ensuring that we have enough seeds, because fine, you can bring in finished products for feeding and all that. We need seeds and to ensure the cycle is very complete and efficient. So transportation, infrastructure and all that, we ensure that it will mean that they'll have to spend more money, and then, most of the things will be importing. There will be pressure at some point. I see the Naira staying.
Let's leave it on that bullish note. Clearly, there are a lot of positive factors across Nigeria right now. Thank you so much, Bankole Odusanya, a trader at UBA, giving us his thoughts on the fixed income market and, of course, the